from the great Jalaluddin Rumi. On the day I die, when I'm being carried toward the grave, don't weep, don't weep. Don't say, he's gone, he's gone. Death has nothing to do with going away. The sun sets and the moon sets, but they're not gone. The human seed goes down in the ground like a bucket into the well where Joseph is. And that human seed grows and comes up full of some unimagined beauty. Your mouth closes here and immediately opens with a shout of joy there. Called On the Day I Die by Rumi. After weeks and weeks of Gurji requesting and the managers requesting that people volunteer to repair the roof or clean out the lake, and somehow we wanted to do it, we never got around to doing it until the word got around that Guruji was up on the roof repairing it all alone, and then there were no lack of volunteers to help him. Same with the lake. After weeks, months of urging us, emergency, we have to clean the lake. You have to get in the lake, wipe out the weeds and get in the mud. Nobody wanted to do that. Guruji went into the lake. He was wearing plaid shorts, I remember. And he was knee-deep in mud. And then somebody thought to bring a recording of Bob Dylan singing Mr. Tambourine Man. And that's what they were playing while we were cleaning the lake. 20, 30. Once it was known that Guruji was in the lake, people came from miles around to clean the lake. But he was such an example. He was such fun, and he was always the role model for us. And I think that story had to be told. I had no plans to tell that. But as you hear these extraordinary readings tonight, I don't think you nor I will be able to be the same after you hear these. After Guruji left his body in 1993, I was conflicted. I had conflicting emotions. On one hand, I was missing him immediately, but I was not mourning him. It's impossible to mourn someone because mourning means to feel the absence, the loss. And how can you mourn for someone who's sitting inside of you? At the same time, I was missing him. I was missing the touch he used to give us as he passed you by. He would touch your forehead. You forgot anything that was bothering you by that touch. He'd look at you and twinkle and laugh. And so, when people began to commemorate his Mahasamadhi date, I didn't feel like doing that, although I did. I felt, my mind told me it was much more important that people understand he wasn't gone, and that if I started grieving for him, it would negate his lifelong message that we're never born and we never die. But I was missing him. The difference between missing and mourning is profound. When you mourn, you're grieving because something is lost. When you're missing presence, right? There's a big difference. So I was conflicted. I didn't tell anybody, but I had this going on inside me. And then I came across a story of a great master. This story eased my heart. I had been in turmoil, really, because I was telling everyone there's no need to have any special ceremonies or to mourn or to grieve. Gurdjieff has never been more strongly present than he is now. Two worlds. Listen to this story. Once it happened that a very great Zen master died. His disciple, Lin Chi, was very well known. In fact, he was more well known than his master, the one who died. Really, his master was famous all over Japan because of Lin Chi. Because Lin Chi was even more famous. And when his master died, thousands and thousands of people gathered to pay their respects. But they were very surprised because Lin Chi was weeping and crying and tears were rolling down his cheeks. So many, many friends asked him, "What are you doing? These people who have gathered, they're talking about you. And they're saying, this cannot be believed. Lin Chi weeping? We thought he's a man who is totally unattached. We thought he is a man who has renounced all attachments. And now he's weeping? Unheard of." And this man, Lin Chi, he has been teaching us that the soul is immortal, that only the body dies. And the body is nothing. He told us again and again, the body is nothing. Dust returns unto dust. So why is he weeping now? It's a disgrace. They demanded an answer. These were logical people, because if a man says that the soul is immortal, then death is of no meaning. So they said to him, "Why are you weeping?" And they were very upset. "You say, you've always said, that no attachment is the key. So why are you attached to your master? Only the body has died, you know that. And you've always been teaching that the body is just dead matter. So why be worried about it? A dead thing has become dead." They demanded an answer. But what did Lin Chi say? Lin Chi said, "Your question is very logical. But what can I do? The tears keep coming down. I'm surprised. I'm really surprised. But what can I do? This is how life is happening in me. And life is illogical, you know that." Lin Chi said, "It's good that my master has died, and he has made me aware of my total life. Without him, I was thinking I was unattached. If he were not dead now, I could never have stumbled upon the fact that I have a heart, a human heart, and that, look, I have tears, and that I can weep." So people, not only are you surprised, Lin Chi himself is surprised. But I will not suppress life. Lin Chi has been accepting life today totally. And I still say the soul is immortal and only the body is dead. But you see, the body was also so beautiful. I'm weeping for the body, dust unto dust. Really, I still say that dust has come back to dust, but that dust had taken such a beautiful form. I'm weeping for it. And so am I. But I've come to terms. I've come to accept not to be ashamed of it. He was a beautiful form. He was a lovely, lovely soul. And at the same time, he taught us Vedantic teachings that were meant to free us from identifying with our own bodies and our own fear of death. I came across a story that finally removed the conflict in my heart. I can weep for his absence, bodily absence, but I can rejoice because he's not absent at all. I remember once there was a group of us in Hawaii, and Gurji didn't like to wait for traffic lights. He was always in a hurry. So as soon as he saw that traffic had abated a little, he would run across the street. And finally, one of us said to him, "Gurji, why do you have to run so fast across the street? You don't believe in death." He said, No, death is a fact. I believe in death. He said, "But it's death of the body." And we said, "But we thought you didn't care about the body." No, I care. I want to hold on to this lifetime because this is a sweet lifetime. I don't know if the next one will be better. Imagine. This is a sweet incarnation. That's why he was running across the street to save his life. But you heard things and they didn't register. We've heard millions of things like that from Gurji, but it wasn't until we started to mature and our bodies started to age that these came back. These were seeds that he was planting in us so that we would never have a fear of dying, never have a fear of getting old, because it wasn't we who were getting old. Remember the story of Linchi. You can miss somebody, but there's no need to mourn, because if there's love even on one side, Sri Brahmananda taught us that love will be back, magnetically called back to us. So, no need. Let them be happy. Gurji is very happy. I don't know where he is, but he's very happy. Because every time I feel his presence, I feel happy. So he was weighted down a lot. He loved us, all of us, everybody. But he was weighted down with our worldly problems, trying to make sure we, at least after a while, transcended them. He had great heart, and he knew things about us other people didn't know. He knew our past tragedies and shocks and misbehavior. He didn't care about it, because he knew that's not who we were. Those were our conditioned selves that had been shaped and distorted and scarred by others. He had great compassion for us because he felt it wasn't anybody's fault. And so he met us on the highest level. The Supreme Doctrine. This was a story told by Osho of Linchi and his master. I don't think I want to comment too much or even ask for questions. Maybe after this conversation with Sri Nisargadatta, you might have questions, because it touches upon the same topic. This questioner has just returned from an ashram in India. I'm no longer afraid since coming back. I have found some peace. Maharaj, oh? What kind of peace is it? The peace of having what you want or not wanting what you do not have? Do you have the peace of having what you want? Is that what's giving you peace? Or are you peaceful because you're not wanting what you do not have? Questioner, now that you bring that up, a little of both. It wasn't easy at all at the ashram. While the ashram is a very peaceful place, inwardly I was in agony. Maharaj, When you realize that the distinction between inner and outer is in the mind only, you're no longer afraid. Questioner: you're right, but that kind of realization comes and goes with me. I haven't yet reached the immutability of absolute completeness, what you talk about. Maharaj: well, as long as you believe so, that you haven't reached it, you have to go on with your sadhana, with your practice, to disperse the false idea of not being complete. When you realize yourself as less than a point in space and time, something too small to be cut and too short-lived to be killed, then and then only will all your fear go. When you realize yourself as less than a point in space and time, something too small to be cut and too short-lived to be killed, then and then alone all fear goes. When you are smaller than the point of the needle, then the needle cannot pierce you, you pierce the needle. Questioner: yes, that's how I feel sometimes. I sometimes feel indomitable. I'm more than fearless. I am fearlessness itself. Maharaj looks at him and then says, so what made you go to the ashram? Questioner: I had an unhappy love affair and suffered hell. Neither drink nor drugs could help me. I was groping and came across some books on yoga. From book to book, from clue to clue, I came to Ramana Ashram. This is what Guruji says. When it's our time, your time, my time, to continue where we left off before being caught in the world again. Maharaj, if the same tragedy were to happen to you again, would you suffer as much, considering your present state of mind? Questioner: oh, no, no. I wouldn't let myself suffer again. I'd kill myself. Maharaj: so you're not afraid to die? Questioner: I am afraid of dying, but I'm not afraid of death itself. I imagine the dying process to be painful, ugly. Maharaj, please listen to his response. This is an enlightened being. The man just said, or the woman, I imagine the dying process to be painful and ugly. Maharaj, how do you know that? It doesn't have to be so. The dying process could be beautiful and peaceful. Once you know that death happens to the body and not to you, you just watch your body falling off like a discarded garment. We've got to get rid of these ideas that other people have given us. I looked up mourning. Do you know what mourning means? It means grieving, but in proper attire, which meant in the olden days, black. You had to wear black. We still do that. Black attire, something that was traditional for that country. Certainly you have to look like you're in mourning. Questioner, I'm fully aware that my fear of death is due to apprehension and not my true knowledge. Maharaj, human beings die every second. The fear and the agony of dying hangs over the world like a cloud. No wonder you too are afraid. But once you know that the body alone dies, and not the continuity of memory, and not the sense of I am reflected in it, you are afraid no longer. So the body dies, but not the continuity of memory, and not the sense of I am reflected in it. You are afraid no longer once you know that it is only the body that dies. Questioner, let us die and see. He's all ready. Maharaj, give attention and you will find that birth and death are one, that life pulsates between being and not being, and that each needs the other for completeness. You are born to die, and you die to be reborn. Questioner, but doesn't detachment stop the process? Maharaj, with detachment the fear goes, but not the fact. What does he mean by that? Who would like to say? With detachment the fear goes, but not the fact. What fact? The body still dies. The fear goes, but not the death of the body. That's still there. Questioner, so are you saying I'm going to be compelled to be reborn? That's dreadful. Maharaj, there's no compulsion. Did I say you will be compelled to be reborn? No. You get what you want. You make your own plans and you carry them out. Question, you mean we condemn ourselves to suffer? Maharaj, we grow through investigation, and to investigate we need experience. We tend to repeat what we have not understood. That's like having a recurring dream. We will continue to have the same nightmare until, instead of running away from it and taking some sleeping pill, we look at that dream and we say, wait a minute, why am I having that same dream again? And then we realize we never stop to look at the symbolism of it. And yet, when in life we keep having the same experience time and time again, we fail in relationship, cannot succeed in any job that we undertake. Everything that we thought we had some talent and could use that talent to perform well, everything seems to fail. And Maharaj says, we tend to repeat what we have not understood. If we are sensitive and intelligent, we never need to suffer. Pain is a call for attention and is the penalty of carelessness. Intelligent and compassionate action is the only remedy. And that doesn't mean action alone for others, especially action for ourselves. We have to act for ourselves with compassion and affection, realizing we're doing the best we can do under the circumstances of our conditioning. Questioner, it is because I have grown in intelligence that I would not tolerate my suffering again. Tell me, what's wrong with suicide? Do you think there's anything wrong with suicide? Maharaj, I don't think there's anything wrong if it solves the problem. You might have known. Nothing wrong if it solves the problem, but what if it doesn't? Suffering caused by extraneous factors, some painful and incurable disease or of unbearable calamity, that's all right for suicide. It may provide some justification if you have some incurable, painful calamity or disease going on. But where wisdom and compassion are lacking, suicide cannot help. A foolish death means foolishness reborn. Besides, there's the question of karma to consider. Endurance is usually the wisest course, to endure whatever is going on. Questioner, must one endure suffering, however acute and hopeless? Maharaj, listen to this answer. Endurance is one thing, and helpless agony is another. Endurance is meaningful and fruitful, while agony is useless. Endurance is meaningful and fruitful, while agony is useless. Question, well, I say, why worry about karma? It takes care of itself anyhow. Maharaj, most of our karma is collective. We suffer for the sins of others as others suffer for ours. Humanity is one. Ignorance of this fact does not change it. We could have been much happier people ourselves, but for our indifference to the sufferings of others. Questioner, well, I find I have grown much more responsive. Maharaj, good. But when you say it, what do you have in mind? You're more responsive, but what exactly do you have in mind? Yourself as a responsive person within a female body? Sometimes there are different questioners. This one might have said, I find I've grown much more responsive. He says, good. But when you say that, what do you have in mind? Yourself as a responsive person within a female body? Question, no. I say there is a body, and there is compassion, and there is memory, and a number of things and attitudes. Collectively, they may be called a person. Maharaj, including the I am idea? Questioner, the I am is like a basket that holds the many things that make up a person. Maharaj, or rather, it is the willow of which the basket is woven. When you think of yourself as a woman, do you mean that you are a woman, or that your body is described as female? Question, very honest woman, this one. It depends on my mood. Sometimes I feel myself to be a mere center of awareness, Maharaj, or an ocean of awareness. But are there moments when you are neither man nor woman, nor the accidental occasioned by circumstances and conditions? Are there moments when you're neither a man or a woman, not the accidental occasioned by circumstances and conditions? Questioner, yes, there are those moments, but really I feel shy to talk about it. And Maharaj finalizes this question by saying, a hint is all that one can expect. You need not say any more now. This is from a very great rabbi who's still alive. His name is Rabbi Jacobson. The secret of a broken heart. We all make mistakes and we break things in our life. But life also breaks us. We've all been broken in one way or another. We've all experienced broken promises or broken relationships. We have experienced the loss of a job or the loss of a loved one. And different people react in a different manner to the hurt that inevitably accompanies breakage. Some people are devastated, and others grow because of it. Some people have strength, but some don't. And there's a reason why. A tree that doesn't fall over in a storm is a tree that was strong before the storm. The storm just revealed the strength of the tree. But a tree with no what? Roots. Ah, good. But a tree with no roots may be able to stand up in normal weather, but it breaks when a storm strikes. And yet, the miracle of creation is that paradoxically, the more broken you are now, the more whole you have the chance to become. That should be a little reassuring. The more broken you are now, the more whole you have the chance to become. The Rebbes teach us that there's nothing as complete as a broken heart. When your heart is broken, you are in a place that is real. How many of you know that? Raise your hands. You don't feel ever as real again until your heart is broken again. But you're right in the soul of your body. Why is a broken wall the holiest place for Jews? Why do Jews stand and pray at a broken wall when there are such beautiful edifices around? Because Jews know that this is not a perfect world. As long as the world is not perfect, Jews cannot stand in a beautiful edifice. Jews can only stand and cry at a broken wall. The illusion of perfect edifices in an imperfect world makes us feel good. But it's an illusion nevertheless. Good for Hollywood, good for Broadway, but it's not reality. The reality is that the world is a broken place. It's a broken place full of broken people whose job it is to mend what is broken. I got to that final sentence and I said, he was so sad throughout this talk until he reminds us what the job of the human race is. It is to mend what is broken. Does anybody have a comment? Because he's saying, we can't march in parades so that this amendment can occur or this bill can be changed until we mend what is broken in ourselves. And we can't mend that until we realize nothing is broken. How many times people have said to you, my heart is broken, I'll never be the same again. Of course you'll be the same again when you realize there was nothing to break. How can you break the I am? Try to break pure consciousness. Try to lose pure consciousness. That's as silly as thinking there's something broken in us and there's somebody or something we broke. You can't break an illusion. He says, the reality is that the world is a broken place. It's a broken place full of broken people whose job is to mend what is broken. Nothing is broken. Perhaps our trust, our faith, our ability to love unconditionally, anybody, everybody. Who taught us that? The embodiment of love over there. He taught us that. What does it mean when Sri Nisargadatta says to another questioner who asked why he's not doing more, why Maharaj is not doing more to help the world. Why does he stay in one place when he should go around India? And he said a strange thing. He said, I am helping. The best help you can give anyone is to convince that person he or she is in no need of help. The best help you can give a person is to convince that person that he or she is in no need of help. Yes, food, shelter, that's not what the person's looking for. That will come. It's come up to now. We've always been taken care of, this group. We've hit some very low points in life, I know, because that's what brings people back to Yoga Vedanta, back to this ashram, your spiritual home. Not good times, but hard times. Not happiness brings you back here, but suffering in the beginning. And the gurus tell you that the only reason they take incarnation again after their enlightenment, or even want to be incarnated again, is to relieve the suffering of humanity as much as possible. The Buddha's path is the path of compassion. Why did he have to come back? He was in bliss. You could see it in the depictions. But they say the gurus are the ones that hold the ladders so that the people can climb up and jump over into heaven. But they hold the ladders steady for us. Any questions about this?
We were fortunate enough to be with him in the lake cleaning the weeds. We had a little wooden raft. And the way it worked is he did come out for a few days. And we worked side by side, but then a miracle happened. He stopped coming, but we kept working.
He always taught by example. We would complain about somebody who was causing a disturbance at the ashram, and he'd say, oh, that's not good, I will meditate. And that night he was so sweet to that person. He gave money to the person, he patted that person. The rest of us were ignored. And then he explained in a talk, he said, yes, these people are out of order, but if I'm not able to love them and encourage them, who's going to? And they said, but he's disturbing the ashram. Look, it's better that he disturb the ashram because we can keep an eye on him than release him to the world where he'll do more damage. He once said it very sweetly. If I can forgive my own crooked karma easily, then I can even more easily forgive your crooked karma. So if someone in this room is really suffering, we can't mend it by the usual ways. We can't fix that break in his joy and his happiness. But we can do what we did, is meditate, clear the mind of all our nonsense and all our dualism and our judgments and criticisms, clear the mind, place an image of that one that you know is suffering right here, and a mending, a healing happens. A healing happens.